everyone, Argsy here. Welcome along to another video for Farming Simulator 25. Now, one of the things I didn't really learn for quite some time when I first started playing Farming Simulator was that you didn't have to use the predefined fields in the game. You could go through and create your own fields or expand your fields into farmland that you already own. So in this video, we're going to take a very quick look at how that is done. Now, we'll just turn around here. We've got the white tractor, the 8810. We've got the Agromaz 5 furrow plow sitting there on the back, and by default plows are the only way that you can create fields in game. But we come around the corner here, we've got a mod from the mod hub. It is a PC only mod, so again, apologies for console players, this won't work for you, but a mod by Wopster called Cultivator Field Creator, and the mod description says this mod enables the field creation for cultivators, disc harrows, power harrows, spaders and subsoilers. So we're going to have a quick look at that as well. I do always find it much easier using something like a cultivator to create fields rather than those plows, just because of the way that they follow the tractor around with the angle and everything like that. It's never quite as nice as using a cultivator. Do keep an eye out. I do know Black Sheep Modding are working on their 6MT, 9MT, and I think they're going to have a 12MT version of their 3-point lifted plow, which is always a nice one and very good for creating fields, so keep an eye out coming for that. But let's just take a quick look in the store. So if you are a console player and looking to do this, the only option you can use are the plows down here under this category, obviously of varying sizes, depending how much land you're going to plow, and obviously what size equipment, what size tractor you've got. Obviously this only needs 85 horsepower. We're running this plow here, which requires 160 horsepower. And gets up to something here which is 6 meters wide and takes 360 horsepower. So that is what you're limited to on console for creating new fields. If you are using the mod we're using, it does say, as we said before, you can use your cultivators, your disc harrows, power harrows, subsoilers and spaders. So anything out of those categories can be used to create fields. Always makes it much easier to be able to use that kind of tool. So let's jump on up into the tractor here. We'll start off using the plow and we'll take a quick look at what's involved. So we're going to ignore the fact that we do have some crops ready to harvest here in the fields. Now we're lined up on the edge. Now if I wanted to plow through this part of the field, I'll just lower this down, drive forward, you'll see our plow will start working here in the field, but if we go across there, we're not changing the terrain at all, and we do plow through into the field that we've already got there to harvest, so you can see how that works. But if we back ourselves up here just a touch, get back into this side. Now I've got a controller plugged in, so it's telling me that if I press 1 we can create fields. I'm just going to move that there. My key command on my keyboard is Y, so we're just going to press Y, and it now says limit to fields, which would be if we were to change our command. So we're just going to pull forward through here, and you can already see actually on the edge that we are being able to create field or expand the field. So we can run through there. Now this is just going to plow as normal because we are in a field that's already created. And so on Riverbend Springs, for example, you might decide that actually I don't want this farm track which runs in this way. There's enough other accesses into the yard, enough other entries. We'll just plow that up and create a slightly larger field. Let's just carry on around here now. As we get to this point, I'm actually going to bring up the mini-map, or bring up the main farm map, and just have a look at the farmland we own. So as we have a look here, you can see under the farmland tab, all of this green is actually ours. Now it is possible to actually go and plow through the roads. So if you wanted to merge all of this into one, you can. Traffic will still run across those roads though, so just be mindful of that. But as you can see, we own this little wedge up here before we get to the trees, and we just pop back out. You can see that bit of grass up there. Really not much use for anything. You're not going to get a mower in there and mow that little bit of grass to make any hay or silage. Really not worth it. So this is actually an opportunity to come in and expand your fields. You haven't had to buy any more farmland or anything like that, but you're actually able to add quite an area into your farm. So we're just going to carry on around here and just see exactly how far we could go. So even here, you can create a little bit extra width. Now just be mindful of trees and overhangs. If you're going to run a combine along here or parallel to this, you don't want to be caught up in any overhanging branches. But again, you can see along this side of the field there is a very wide green expanse that we can expand into. So we're just going to quickly run around and do that and get this all created into one sort of big outline field. One thing to point out as well, some of these bushes are plowable, so you can see that bush just disappeared. So these smaller ones which don't have a collision on like some of the trees do. You can actually just go through and they will plow and disappear. See those ones there just disappearing right before our eyes. So sort of carry on and around and get ourselves roughly lined up here with the edge of this field. You want to try and do as good a task as you can. Now, another tip, bring up the mini-map, and you can actually see we've got some headings there down on the bottom corner. So if you wanted to drive at a perfect angle, if you wanted to drive at 180 degrees, 90 degrees, 0 or 360, you can actually try and line that up. Now, controller, I have always found, makes that a much easier task than if you were trying to do it with a keyboard and mouse or even a steering wheel. So keep that in mind, but it is a good way to try and create a square edge on the field. Now, obviously this one wasn't square to start with, so we're not too worried about following along perfectly with that. But there you go, just about back to the start. You can see our row up there where we've just headed. As I said earlier, these plows, when we turn there, not always the nicest to try and get going in the perfect direction, but here's one of those options. Like I said, with the bearing down there on the bottom, is to just slowly get ourselves onto that 90 degrees and try and drive in a perfectly straight line. Won't hold it exactly, will flitter between sort of decimal points of degrees, but you can do a pretty good job of creating a nice straight line along your field. So there we go. It's one lap around, and we've managed to create a rather large, well, what will be a rather large field there with our plough. So we're going to jump out of here now that you've got an understanding of what's required to create a field with a plough. We're going to make sure, now this is another tip, when you're doing this, do make sure that you limit it to fields. So if I was to, we'll give it an example, if I lower that down now, probably going to find we're going to plough that. So just make sure you press your Y or whatever it is, and that'll stop that ploughing there. So don't get caught out, because it has tricked me a number of times where I've managed to plough. Even just lowering the implement down when you're putting it away in the shed can sometimes have that effect. So now here in the Challenger with the John Deere cultivator on behind. Now again, if we press Y, you can see we've got the option up there, allow create fields. Press that, it will say limit to fields, which we now know has allowed us to create fields. Now this does skip the ploughing texture, so if you go through there, you can see we're creating fields, but we're keeping the same texture. It will mean it doesn't create any rocks. You can see where we've ploughed through here. The ploughing has created some stones, but you won't get that with these cultivators. I think the subsoiler would, and I know others have done some tests on what do create stones and what don't, but I think if you were used to subsoiler, which is a sort of a deeper ripper, you would get some stones being created when you're doing that. So you could create fields and get stones if you wanted to be able to create your own lime or make some profit off of those. Not that it is that much, but there you go, just race around and get this all tidied up. Now of course, because these fields in here are already defined, you don't actually need to go through and plough those. So we would lift this up and run back around, the crop destruction turned on as well. You can lower this back down and get rid of this grass area. So what I'm going to do is very quickly work our way around, get rid of all of the grass, create this into one big field, and then we're going to see how the AI workers will work with picking up and detecting the new field shape. So there you go, you can see now everything is effectively being merged into one big field. Now one of the great things about the map, the mini map down there, you can see that it shows all of the ploughed area now. So the field shapes have slightly changed, particularly up at the top of field 5. You can see that sort of little bulge up in there, and also around the edge of field 3 here, where the biggest changes were. So we've probably added, I don't know, maybe 10% to the total field area down here, which, you know, if you're making 40 grand off a field, or off this area, it's 44 grand now because of the extra area. So it does make it worthwhile to go through and do that. It does mean also, if you wanted to plant one big field with just the same crop, then you could do that without any dramas. But what we're going to do, we've got the Challenger park down there on the edge of the field. As you can see, we're going to go jump into that and just see how the AI workers adapt to the new field shape. So by holding H, we're going to bring up the AI worker menu, and as you can see right there, it has already detected the field is a merged field. Now there's something funky going on down the edge here, but I think if we bump the number of headlands up, it squares that off. So there must just be in this corner here enough of an angle for it to think it needs to go and run the end of each of these rows on a funny angle. But push that up to 5 and that goes away, and yeah, it's doing it in the long direction. So pretty clever really. It does that without any dramas. Of course, exactly the same on steering assist. So if we're wanting to run the GPS and do it ourselves, we can get that. So workers will detect, the AI is smart enough to detect an increased field or a custom field there. So if you were to go through and customize your fields, if you're on a map that didn't have any fields or was a grassland you wanted to create into a field, you can still use the AI workers on that. And really, the options are limitless with your fields. This one here, which is just over the road, you can see you've got a big grass area along the side. So again, you could go and increase your field. It doesn't have to be flat. I mean, you can work on a bit of a slope, whether you come all the way up here to the edge of the road or not. There is some options there. But even so, further around the edges of the field, there's a bit more space you could plow up. And there is numerous fields. I was having a look on the map. Some of these fields down here, 64, 61, had quite a bit of space around them. Even 66 did as well. You got fields there, 59 and 60, which you could probably merge. There's a couple of fields, 30 and 31, which could easily be merged up here as well. So there's no shortage of opportunities and possibilities to come through and expand your fields. And that could be something you might consider when you're going through and deciding which one is the next field you're going to buy. How can I potentially merge it with one and another? I don't know. We could go and have a look there, actually. Let's go and check. I wonder if these three could be made into one big field, or potentially even these three up over here. So there you go, 100% field 38 down here in front of us, and the two next to it could be one big field. Got those three over there, could be one big field. That field over in that direction could be one field, big field. So there are some possibilities and opportunities to increase your field sizes if you want to run some bigger equipment. Just looking over right in the distance, it does look like some of those fields could be merged as well. So some pretty good opportunities to create some bigger fields if you wanted to get in and use some of the bigger equipment here in Riverbend Springs. So there we go. Like I said, that would be a pretty short and sweet one, looking at how to create your own custom fields and how to merge your fields in Farming Simulator 25. For console users, you are restricted, as we said earlier, to just using the plows in-game, while if you're on PC, there's a fantastic mod already out in the mod hub, Cultivator Field, created by Wopster, where you can use cultivators, disc harrows, power harrows, spaders, and subsoilers to create your own fields. And actually, if you have a look in some of those options, I think the disc harrows have some pretty wide pieces of equipment, as do the cultivators. So if you wanted to create some big fields pretty quickly, you could do that quite easily. So there we go. That's how you do it. It's something I wish I knew earlier when I first started playing Farming Simulator. Once I unlocked that, I started to making lots more money on my farms much faster. So I hope that helped you out. I know some of you, if you've watched this, thank you very much. I've probably told you how to suck eggs a little bit, but if I've helped some of the new players out, then that was my goal with this video. Anyhow, as always, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you found that useful and informative, and we'll catch you in the next one.